That's a cool little effect that that person has for their weapon. I don't know what that is. What is their power? That viney thing that they were doing is kind of interesting. It's a it's a nature staff that they had, and it's the thorn growth, thorn growth power, crowd control. It's kind of cool. You know, it's really nice that in Albion Online you can inspect other players and you can see what they're wearing and what they're using, and you can even see what the different stats for their individual pieces of gear are. I do like that. And someone's having a bit of fun here. I'll just kill one of these mobs and then I'll leave him alone. He can have the other one. Alright, well, anyway, I was thinking about something on the general concept and um, topic of rats. So, rat is not a very significant creature, really. The rat is a minor animal. It's not a very important animal. And it's not a very powerful animal. So, in the animal kingdom, if you think about rat, it's not very glamorous. And yet, the rat is extremely resilient. He's able to survive in almost any circumstance whatsoever. Oh, I gotta stop and just say, look at that. It's the panda skin. You know, I wanted that panda skin. I really did. And it was a recruiting bonus, and I did, in fact, refer an account, and the panda did not become mine because yeah, the person who signed up didn't use the right link right or something, and it just didn't work out. I almost had that panda though. Anyway, but going back to rats, see, the rat is very resilient. He's able to survive almost any circumstance, and that's why the rat is so able to endure and adapt, because he's small, he can run, he can jump, he can go all over, he can be eating almost anything. If you look at a rat's diet, you'll find that it's quite able to live on really exactly the same things that a person would live off of. I could make my dinner and I could give the rat the same dinner that I'm eating and he would eat it. It's really amazing how much like people rats are, despite being, of course, totally different from people. But what I'm getting at here is that there's a certain value in being a generalist and being very adaptable. So you don't really necessarily have any hard skills exactly, but you can survive in any situation. So it doesn't matter if you have a job or you lose your job. It doesn't matter if you're living in a warm place or a cold place. It doesn't matter if you are required to figure out how to go it alone or maybe lead, or if you're in a situation where you need to just follow. Like, whatever it is, you just kind of have this attitude in life. You know, I'm going to do what I need to do to survive. Whatever that is, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm not necessarily going to be a master of anything, but I'm going to be able to endure anything. And a big part of what makes that possible is having no real expectations of life. You kind of have this attitude that life is what it is. And I don't really have any rigid requirement for what that is. You know, a lot of people, they think, you know, I have to have a certain style of living. I have to have a certain quality of life. I have to be in a certain place. Everything has to fit into this particular mold, and if it doesn't, then I am not going to be satisfied with my life. And so they always try to figure out how they can be what they view as necessary to have a good life, and then when you really fit yourself into that specific mold, there's not a lot of options to you. It's like going to the car dealership and you get a new car because you feel like you need to have that car for some sort of status. You think life's not good if you don't have the new car. And you are living in a specific place because that's where your friends are, and maybe that's where your spouse wants to live, and that's where your job is, and So you have to live in this one particular place. And you just have all these things going on in your life. And then what happens if something changes and you can't maintain that status quo? Like, you have to change. Then how much are you able to let go of all that other noise, all that other stuff, and say, okay, whatever, it is what it is. Situation's different now. When you're not attached, then you can quickly and nimbly change your strategy to adapt to the circumstances. And I think it's important in relationships that we have to, find somebody who's willing to help you survive, not someone who's going to have a bunch of their own expectations, and then you have your expectations, and they have their expectations, and you're just sort of living in this state of paralysis to where you're never able to adapt to the circumstances to do what needs to be done because you can never even get a consensus on it. And when things happen, when things hit the fan, you really have to make a decision quickly. You can't be stuck in Parliament trying to figure out how you're going to get the vote. You have to be able to make a decision quickly. Think about the rat once again. The rat is going to just jump on the ship and ride. If that's where there's food and that's where there's people at, it's going to go and it's going to do its thing and it's going to make it. So I think that there's a lot of power in being, I guess, what they call, they have this, what is it? They call it the socio-sexual pyramid, and there's the alpha male, and then there's the, I don't know, beta, delta, sigma, whatever, octagon. It just keeps on going. But one of them is the sigma, I believe is what it is, where they say, okay, there's people who are kind of in this chain of command, like a pyramid, and then you have a certain class of people who are outside of that hierarchy entirely. And who knows what they really are, other than they kind of are there for themselves. They're individualists, they're self-made, they're self-determined, they can take many different forms, but ultimately they're not reliant on any particular hierarchy to command or to support them. They just are. And that's probably the most successful and free and liberated category to be in. It doesn't really matter what your, I guess, social hierarchy would traditionally be. You can always choose to say, I'm going to live my life for myself. I'm going to do what brings me joy. And in any given moment, I'm just going to leave it kind of an open book to kind of see where the path takes me. And I'm going to make the best out of any circumstance that I find myself in. Kind of like the rat. You're just going to jump, maybe you jump on a ship and you go to a new place. Maybe you stick around. You don't have to go super far. Like, if all your needs are met right here, right now, then why would you go somewhere else to meet them? Low expectations. You're not expecting that life's going to be filled with tons and tons of extremely expensive things or great high achievements. You're just going to live your life. You're going to make sure that your needs are met. If you have a family, or you have friends, or you have other people in your life, you're going to try to be there for them too. You're going to always be, kind of not consuming that much, being simple, being low key, maybe being even a bit invisible, but just letting life go and not being extremely worried about the direction. You just set your sails based on what direction the wind is going, and you kind of let the wind take you. They say if you're stuck in a storm, like a tornado, hurricane, something, you got sucked up in a tornado or something crazy, they say just don't fight it too much. Kind of go limp, because if you fight it, you're not going to really help yourself, and you're going to actually potentially hurt yourself more if you're tensed up and you are super rigid. You're better to just kind of be the rag doll that just blows with the wind, and you might turn out all right and land on your feet. So my suggestion with all of this is just to contemplate being the generalist who's always able to survive instead of the specialist that always has really specific expectations. You know, if you're looking at life skills, maybe you want to go to college and maybe you want to have that degree, you know, bachelor's degree or postgraduate degree and go into some specific field or whatever. Like, there's definitely a need for these things. But then maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to kind of chill out and do your thing and have a simple life and make a few wise investments along the way. And if that's what you do, you might find that that works out just fine for you. All the things that people say, you have to do these different things if you're going to have a good life, a lot of that is a lie. Because the truth is, you can have a good life, and you can also have a simple life. And you can have a life that is filled with good things and respect without selling yourself out to a hierarchy that you don't believe in, whether it's a job you don't believe in or social pressures of people that will try to tell you that you cannot be happy or you cannot survive without them. It's okay to be self-made. It's okay to be humble. It's okay to have a small and seemingly insignificant life. And you may find that you are more able to weather the adversity that life throws at you if you don't have extremely specific expectations and goals and methods. Because if you are very specialized and you then rely on having a situation where you can use your specialization, you may find that being a generalist is better, because rarely will life give you the perfect situation that allows you to maximize your potential if your skill is extremely specific. But if you are like a rat and you can just pretty much survive anything, eat anything, live off of anything, and live off of very little, well, just like the rats, there will be very few places where you will not be able to find enough blessings and abundance to live well. Thank you.